Welcome to Alternative Dog Moms Podcast. I'm Kimberly Gauthier, the creator of Keep the Tail Wagging. For the past 9 years, I've been blogging about raw feeding, pet wellness, and life as a crazy dog mom. I've seen massive improvements in my dog's health since I started raising my dogs naturally, and I'm passionate about sharing my experience to help other pet parents.
I'm Erin Scott. For the past 9 years, I've been researching and learning everything I can about healing cancer, allergies, autoimmune, and mystery illnesses in both my dogs and myself, and I can't wait to share with you everything I've learned on this journey. As the Alternative Dog Moms, we're bringing you all the latest dog health news that we're following and sharing the tips, tricks, and resources we learn along the way. Now, let's get started. Hello, Kimberly.
Hello, Erin.
And we are joined today by Dr. Emily Stein. Hello.
Hello. Welcome.
So yes, it is February, which we all know is National Pet Dental Health Month. And I'm so excited to have Dr. Emily as one of the founders of the Teef product. And I always love that name because we always jokingly call our dogs' teeth like teefers, you know, when they have, especially like the little bottom ones showing. And so it always makes me giggle when I say it.
Yep. You know what's funny is we picked the name because it makes women smile when they say it.
Well, it worked.
Oh, Teef. That's so true.
Yeah. Like you can't not smile when you say it.
I mean, it accidentally means bitch in Dutch.
Oh my God, I can't wait. Johan is Dutch.
We kind of found that out on accident, but
I can't wait. His mom, I was just actually at my in-laws' house just a few hours ago, so I can't wait to text her and go, guess what I learned?
but we're female founders, you know, we're female dog forward.
There you go.
So I guess, you know, whatevs.
Oh my gosh, I love it even more now. So I always love starting off with like a good origin story. So can you tell us kind of how you got into being a microbiologist and then how Teef came to be?
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, my goodness, we've lived through why I became a microbiologist. I'm terrified of things that can kill you that you can't even see, aka COVID, right?
Right.
But back up to 2000 when I graduated from undergrad in microbiology from the University of Iowa. Yeah. So I worked on tuberculosis, which hides in people's lungs for decades and then pops back out and decides to kill them. It's also known as the White Plague, and it killed millions of human beings in the medieval times. So that fascination and fear kind of took me to grad school where I got my doctorate in microbiology. But I worked on soil microbes and how they survive stress and how they work in communities because they really are social organisms and they live in these things called biofilms, where they're not just living by themselves, they're living with other microbes, right? And surviving through a lot of competition and strategies. And it's constant, like, you know, gaming warfare almost, where they're honestly fighting for survival and nutrition and trying to evade harmful heavy metals, or they learn how to deal with heavy metals or antiseptics or antibiotics, you know. And so I spent 6 years studying that. And then my family has a lot of autoimmune disease. So I spent 7 years at Stanford, just across the bay, in autoimmune disease. And that's when my grandmother had a stroke the day after she had a tooth extracted.
Oh,
because when you get a tooth extracted and you bleed from your gums, microbes go in. So they went up there into her brain, and she threw a clot, and that changed her life. And my best friend just went from a vivacious, amazing human being to being very upset because she couldn't say the right pronouns, or her brain worked much more slowly. Her quality of life descended, and cost of care just went up, and quality of life went way down, and it broke my heart. So I basically biohacked my grandma and found naturally safe ingredients that stopped the bacteria from causing dental problems, so she wouldn't have to get a tooth extracted again and have any more problems. And then fast forward another 4 to 5 years when I rescued a 10-year-old Cocker Spaniel from Humane Society up in Washington State. And she's 10 years old, so she's got some things going on, and they warned me she needed a dental cleaning, but she really had advanced dental disease, and I had to roll down all the windows on our rental car to get her back down to the Bay Area where I was living at the time, because her mouth was just spewing. Yeah, you know how dogs can smell like death because the bacteria make this molecule called putrescine or cadaverin, is the other one that they make, which literally is the smell of death. And that's what her mouth bacteria were making. And so I had, within the 2 days after I rescued her, I had to get 21 teeth extracted in her mouth. And she had to get pumped with antibiotics to save her life because her dental disease had spread to a bloodstream infection. So I've had 2 different very important beings in my life channel me in dental disease treatment and prevention and education. Long story short.
That is an amazing story. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like you never expected to be so personal, or I wasn't, like that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
So you had mentioned biofilm, and I had been worked up in the past for autoimmune issues, and I had worked with a functional medicine doctor, and I remember that word, and I remember being given different treatments that were supposed to kind of help break up the biofilm. Can you tell us more about what that is?
So the biofilm is a technical word that basically describes all the organisms that form a tiny little invisible film on us and in us. So every single surface, from our skin to our hair, to our mouths, to our GI tract, to our urethra, to our gut, is all coated in a biofilm. Some people call it a microbiome. Other people call it a biofilm. But it's this community of bacteria, fungus, viruses, archaea, like small eukaryotic microbes that coexist kind of in a radical party all the time, so it's like not quite headbanger's ball, but kind of like sometimes it's a rave, sometimes it's like a 60s, concerts, like, sometimes it's country music. Just depends on how stressed the host organism is and what they're eating in their diet that week, as far as how radical and disruptive the biofilm can be, or how chill and cool the biofilm can be.
And so the Teef product is actually a combination of prebiotics and postbiotics. Do I have that right?
Yeah. So microbes make all sorts of things and they eat all sorts of things. So we've found a combination of nutrients for bacteria, which are technically called prebiotics, and a fiber that's made by soil bacteria that literally plugs up the ability of all microbes from eating carbohydrates, which is really important when you're thinking of dental health, because sugars equals cavities, sugars equals gum disease. Doesn't matter if you're a cat, you're a dog, or you're a human. And if you eat a lot of sugars, you enrich your mouth with microbes that ferment a lot of sugars that cause problems. And so what that postbiotic fiber does is literally physically plugs up the ability of microbes to even recognize and pull in sugar to eat it. So they can't even eat it. And then the prebiotics are stimulating their ability for the good guys to start eating protein. So we're basically putting the oral microbiome on a keto diet, more or less, throughout the day. And by putting Teef in their drinking water, then the dogs and cats are just, going into the drinking water and getting a dose of Teef, which is basically reinforcing that keto tendency in the microbiome, which is really important, we found clinically, for downstream dental health.
Okay. So I have used your product before with my dog Penny, and it's a small bottle and you put just the tiniest amount in the water and it lasts for a long time. And so I had only been using it for maybe a couple of weeks, and my vet was like, "Oh, what'd you do? Her teeth look so much better." Yeah. And I was shocked because it was the only thing that ever made like any noticeable improvement in her dental health over the years.
Can you tell us more about what's the purchase? Because I'm on the website and there's, the picture shows 3 different things, but it's like one jar What are the other two things in the image?
There's a bag that the jar comes in and a little spoon.
Okay.
And the little spoon is like 0.15 cc, which is tiny, tiny, tiny. It's like smaller than a 1/8 teaspoon. And this is the dose for a day's worth of drinking water for dogs and cats, whatever your household consumes, that scoop goes into. So if you have a multi-dog home with multiple dishes, a scoop in like we say a pitcher or something in water, mix it up and then pour it throughout the day to refresh. But that tiny amount is meant to microdose the microbiome in the mouth, or the biofilm in the mouth, which resides on every single tooth, on the tongue, on the roof of the mouth, on the cheeks, and way below the gum line. And it's below the gum line that is critical for dental health or dental disease.
So what about dogs that have the beginnings of dental disease? Is this something that can reverse that?
Oh gosh, you're asking the $1 million question. We haven't clinically proven that in dogs yet. We have proven that in humans.
Okay.
We are on the way to proving that in dogs. It just takes a little bit longer.
I love it.
So there is like a study that you've done, right? That proves how it helps.
Yeah, we've done, so in humans, we've reversed gingivitis. In dogs, we've done 365-day, year-long study showing we can completely eradicate gum disease-associated bacteria subgingivally, which is where they live, and they're causing that disease process to happen, and we're getting rid of them, which is a big causal agent. So what we've really been working with veterinarians on is reteaching dentistry in veterinary medicine, because in human dentistry, folks have known for now well over a decade that you can have plaque on your teeth and not have a cavity. Mm-hmm. You can have zero plaque and have massive gum disease, massive cavities. It's about who lives in your mouth and what they're doing, not plaque or tartar. And so it's just teaching about that. So we're focused on really identifying who's in the mouth, what they're doing, what are the dogs and cats really being fed, because a lot of this is actually driven by carbohydrates. So that's what we're trying to stop. In our 13 years of research, we found that carbohydrates are really causing the growth of these very inflammatory, disease-causing microbes. And our approach is to try and stop that as best as possible. But, it can only do so much, and it can't overcome massive amounts of carbohydrates in a dog's or cat's diet. So we're really also trying to educate pet parents on feeding their pets better, diversifying the diet, going more fresh proteins. And if they do vegetables and stuff, keep that really fresh as possible. Don't cook it down, because then you release a lot of the carbohydrates. And that's a problem. No, like the fruits are the same way. So minimize cooked fruits and vegetables, maximize diversity, and focus heavily on protein, which cats and dogs historically and ancestrally have had to. I mean, that's what's best for them anyways. That's what their DNA has been evolved for, and their microbiomes.
So what is the link between... So all of us, I would imagine listening to the podcast are familiar with the gut microbiome, and realizing that there's an oral microbiome was a somewhat newer concept for me. And so when your dog is, drinking, the water with teef in it and it's affecting the oral microbiome, is that affecting the gut microbiome also? Is there a connection there?
Yes, there is a connection also to skin and genital urinary. We found, and sinus, and lacrimal glands also. So you'll see a change in coloration of the eye goop. It'll be a little healthier in consistency. Long story short, but everything is connected. The mouth is the gateway to the body. So humans breathe and eat through it. Dogs tend to do both as well. Cats can do both. And that's how we really experience our environment is mouth first. And that tends to seed the downstream gut. So what you'll find is that, the gut is the most diverse, high content microbiome, which means most microbes in the body, right? the mouth is the second place in the body. So it's the second most diverse. And it has the second highest burden. Every time you kiss someone or your dog kisses you, you're exchanging millions of microbes in that single lick or single kiss.
Yay.
That tells you how much content we're talking about here.
Yeah, I've never been a big dog kisser. Now I know why.
On the other hand, I'm just sitting here like I was just playing with my puppy and she is a kisser like you wouldn't believe.
Yep. There's so women as opposed to men, we have a tendency of actually accepting more DNA from our canines. Have you heard that story before?
No.
We actually have way more canine DNA ancestrally than males. It's because when we were in the hunter-gatherer stage, it was the canines that were with the women, protecting the women and children.
Wow.
Yeah. But we are just sponges for DNA. So
that didn't show up in my 23andMe.
No.
That would have been confusing if it had.
I know. % canine. They will eventually report on that, but they're not going to.
I bet you they will. It'll be so.
It's only a matter of time.
People like us will enjoy it. And
yeah, totally. We'll be proud of it.
I know exactly.
Yep. But yeah, that's a real thing. So in dental pathogens, which are the microbes that can cause cavities in humans, because dogs and cats don't often get cavities unless they broke a tooth, chipped a tooth, or have a cracked tooth, or eroded it because they ate too many rocks when they were puppies, Or gum disease bacteria, which live way below the gum line, are actually infectious. So they can be shared amongst family members in the same household. And we've shown that through our research. Other people have shown that through their research internationally and at prestigious academic institutions. And it can also hop from human to dog and dog to human.
Wow.
Well, in my head, I'm thinking of the next blog post title was like, if you're going to continue kissing your dog, you might want to get some teeth.
Yes.
It's like,
yep. Because I will tell you, what dog doesn't eat rabbit poop in the winter or cat box visitation rights, and then they lick you and you just need to clean out that mouth.
So if you're using Teef with your dog, can that actually change the consistency of their poop or anything like that? Is it affecting the microbiome that way?
Yeah, we have a lot of anecdotal data, and we're expanding into gut health actually because of our anecdotal data and vaginal health, genital urinary health. So the mouth is linked directly to the gut and indirectly to the bladder and vagina and uterus. So there's a lot of areas that we're currently exploring the use of indirect and direct administration of our approach for the betterment of and well-being of the animal. So by Teef administration directly to the drinking water, we definitely know you'll see a transient change where it might be a little bit loose for a day as you're sloughing off all that harmful microbiome or biofilm and starting to grow in or attach the beneficial microbes. Because one of the benefits of Teef is that we know clinically that we induce the growth of beneficial microbes in dogs' mouths over time. So that's bifido, lactose, bacillus, peptostrep, all the microbes you want to inhabit in a healthy dog's mouth. It tends to grow, and that has downstream effects for gut health.
It's interesting because years ago, my partner, he's a retired detective, and he was on a case with a child, and they were trying to make a case for neglect, and his choice was to go with dental health. And he explained, because they were losing the case, and he explained that, think about how long humans used to live, 200 years ago. And the reason why we died so young many times, it started with the mouth, and then that would expand to all these other health issues. And it's interesting that today we don't really talk about that anymore. We're always talking about disease starts in the gut. And so we need to focus on the gut health. And it's interesting to hear you talking about this because it's a reminder that, yeah, disease can start here too.
Oh yeah. And it's called edentalism in humans. Every single tooth lost in human life is quantified so far based on best research, 1.5 years of lifespan lost with every tooth extracted. If you have gum disease, you can lose up to right now about 10 years of lifespan. On dogs, you lose a third of their life. A third.
Wow.
Because it's linked to so many things. Like in humans, number 1 is cardiovascular disease. In dogs, cardiovascular disease. Number 2 in humans is diabetes. Number 2 in dogs is to be determined, but it's between liver related or obesity related, aka diabetes like issues, right? And humans, the number 3 is preterm birth risk, which still needs to be established in dog. But up and comer in human is actually dementias and Alzheimer's for gum disease, because the microbe in the mouth is linked directly to causing, or it's been causally demonstrated in animal models. You can only find it post-mortem when you crack open someone. Sorry, I'm a scientist, so I tend to depersonalize it so I can handle it because it's pretty intense. When you culture it out of someone's brain post-mortem that has Alzheimer's. But dogs get dementia too. And that's the one thing that I need to really hit on is dental health equals mental health in humans and in pets. Kidney health, liver health, heart health, gut health. It's all connected. Skin health too. So we're finding the healthier the mouth, the fewer hot spots, the less bowel issues, kidney issues, and cardiovascular issues your pet's going to have.
This is amazing.
Right? Those microbes don't just stay put in the mouth, and when you think about it, the mouth is so close to your brain, your pet's brain. It's close to the heart. It's way closer to the heart than the gut is.
And then we think about the things that, not dogs, but with humans, the things we put into our mouths without any thought to it. It wasn't until I became a raw feeder and really started focusing on what I was feeding my dogs. And I wouldn't say that. It was a few years after I started doing this that I was at the store buying a box of hot tamales and bought it, went home, cracked it open, eating hot tamales. And then all of a sudden I'm looking at this red little piece of plastic and wondering, what am I eating? What is this? What am I putting in my body? Yeah. And I haven't been able to have one since. I miss those little things.
I know. I luckily, as a kid, I loved sugar, but now as an adult, I'm more of a salt person, which is almost as bad, but a little bit better for my dental health. But I get it. And when you're a raw feeder, most people think that dogs don't get dental disease. I'm like, no, bone marrow has raw sugar in it. You talk about the most glucose basic sugar in bone marrow. It's there. So I'm like, people feeding raw need to also care about dental health.
Yeah. I tell people, I have friends who have dogs that they feed kibble. One of my friends, Graham Cracker is what I call him. His teeth are gorgeous. He's, I think, an 8-year-old dog, kibble fed in his entire life. I don't think he's ever had a dental. His teeth are gorgeous. So it really, yes, it does depend on diet, but it also depends on lifestyle and the dog itself. Yes. There's so many things. As I said, today my dog went in for a cleaning and her teeth they weren't terrible, but she had 2 teeth that, needed some work done. And my other dogs, their teeth are great, but because of that, I've become a little more aware. Yeah. And I'm lucky enough to have a great vet that took the time to explain what they found and this is what we need to work on.
Good.
But it's one of those things where it's so easy, I think, in our community to believe that once we switch to raw, we don't have to worry about anything. I lost 2 dogs to cancer in the past couple of years, and I still get questions from people who want to know, were they eating raw when they died? And it's like, yep. One of them had been fed raw since he was 6 weeks old. It's it's not just diet. And
no, it's because just like genetics, you inherit from both father and mother. You inherit the maternal microbiome for vaginal birth. So if it's a C-section, which poor bulldogs and poor
Chihuahuas.
Yeah. Anything that goes through a C-section does not get bathed in that very special sauce that is super important. And that's why you see a lot of these breeds really have problems with skin, with dental, with sinus, with gut, is because they miss out on all that. So they instead get inoculated with the microbiome of whatever environment they were born into. If that's a garage, if that's a breeding cage, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be a hospital, which is, harboring a lot of multi-drug resistant microbes. Doesn't matter what you feed that dog afterwards. They've inherited that, and it's really hard to undo that.
Yeah. And when we're dealing with rescue,
yeah,
as both of us all of our dogs are from rescue, you don't know what their background is. You don't necessarily know where they came from and what their origin story was. And so you can't really walk into taking care of your dogs. I mean, we can all do the best that we can, but it's so important to understand that the best we can still may not be enough for every dog out there. And especially, again, if we've completely passed over dental health and raced straight to the gut, we're missing the first line of defense.
I love the way you just stated that. That's so true. Yeah. And I always talk diet, because diet's something you can course correct. It might not be the answer for your pet. I mean, mine is a rescue too, and he's a pitty mix. But I got him since he was 3 months old. So he's been on Teef his whole life, and he's now 4, and he hasn't had a dental, and his gum tissue it's because I look at his gums, but I know what to look for. Right. And so, one of the things that we're trying to come up with is an easy way to teach gum health to everybody, what to look for: puffiness, redness, bleeding, blackness, coming out from underneath, because plaque actually grows from below the gum line up the tooth. And so to be aware of that. So anytime it gets protruded out or bulky looking, it's being that there's stuff going on there. They could have the whitest teeth in the world, and there's stuff going on underneath that people need to be aware of, because that's what silently kills. It's not yellow teeth.
Mm-hmm. So when people start putting the teeth in the water, and I ordered my 30-day supply, by the way, because I'm a multitasker. But when we start doing this, do we also still brush our dog's teeth and do that? Because that's another thing that I think many people have a misconception, is we'll latch on to one tool.
Yeah.
Thinking that that's all we need to do.
Yeah, no, there's no one answer for this, because it's all hands on deck for this disease, because it's so insidious. And it's a polymicrobial thing. So it's not just one thing that's going on, it's a multitude of microbes just feeding off of whatever carbohydrates are in that diet and causing this cascade of inflammation and things that are going on that you can't even see for months and months and months until it manifests, right? Mm-hmm. And so brushing the teeth is good. It'll help remove the plaque from the teeth. What I recommend is lightly brushing the gum tissue, which increases circulation, which removes the waste products that the microbes that are making, which cause the inflammation. Change out the water on a regular basis. Wash the water bowl and the food dish with soap and water every other day, if possible. Run it through that dishwasher at least twice a week if you can, because stuff grows there. And then get them chewing on chew toys. So if they're plushy chew toys, throw those in the washing machine on a regular basis to clean them out. Bully sticks are amazing. My dog is raw fed too, so he gets bullies. He gets plushy chew toys, and he won't let me brush his teeth. So he chews up every toothbrush, which is a really waste of money for me. But I supplement him with things that he can chew to stimulate that gingival circulation and clean his teeth however I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, Penny did not like having her mouth messed with at all. Like, there was no way I was going to be able to ever brush her teeth. So that was why it was very exciting to find this. And we had a very noticeable result without doing anything extra, even though that's probably the gold standard to do extra.
Yeah, and especially for our disabled customers or older adults that have arthritis and stuff, just can't brush their animals' teeth, or cats. You can't brush a cat's teeth. I mean, you got to have some other way to help. So we're hopefully gonna come out with a couple of products in April that'll help with additional methods, because the key is to get those microbes on that keto diet throughout the day, every day of the week, to just train the microbes, not the host animal, but just so it minimizes the secretion of these toxic byproducts that these microbes make.
So I've always known a lot of little dogs who end up with like really severe dental disease. And like you said, like having to get all these extractions and things. Other than the birth, whether it was a C-section birth, is there any, is that a genetic predisposition, or what is it that always gives those little guys the dental issues?
Yeah, so the little guys are disadvantaged completely because they have overcrowding usually. So they have the same amount of teeth as a big Great Dane, right? But it's shoved into a tiny little space. So they have an overcrowding issue, and they don't make as much saliva. And saliva has a natural cleaning capability. So they often don't drink enough water, which naturally just dilutes all those toxins that microbes make in the mouth. And so those three things have a tendency of being really big disadvantages for our little ones. And so they need more help than anybody, really. Mm-hmm. And actually, in our studies, your average Chihuahua or a Boston Terrier can have 1,000 times more bacteria in their mouths than a Great Dane.
Wow.
Or a German Shepherd, because there's just that low level. There's not enough saliva produced, and they're not drinking enough water, that the microbes are just like overtaking it. Because when you think about drinking and saliva, you're swallowing microbes every time you swallow, right? When these guys don't swallow as often, cats don't either. And so that's why there's a lot more problem.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. It's like because sometimes you think, is it just me who because from doing rescue or things, you always see these little dogs with the bad mouth, but there is a scientific reason why.
Yeah. And there is some breed specific things like Cocker Spaniels, and a lot of Spaniels have dental issues, and that is a genetic thing for sure. That's been bred accidentally into those breeds, because they're bigger dogs than Chihuahuas, but that's an enamel problem. That's not necessarily what's causing the problem in tiny little dogs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the whole time I'm sitting here, I'm wondering about animal biome. Have you guys ever worked with them? Did I see that somewhere? Okay.
We love them. Yeah, no, they helped us do quite a few studies. Yeah, no, they're great. They actually have an oral microbiome test.
That's what I was thinking.
That we have validated and recommend. And that's a great way to periodically test the oral health of your animal.
I was imagining you and Dr. Holly must have the best conversations.
Oh no, we totally nerd out. I mean, it's so bad because we're so busy and absent-minded scientists that I'm like, Holly, let's do this study in horse, and then 5 months go by, and then Holly's like, oh, let's have a discussion about the horse project, and then another 6 months go by. So we're like, kind of like that. We just have so much on our plate, but we are all about figuring out what is the good microbiome that drives health for animals.
We had Holly on, and I loved her so much. I mean, I just loved calling them to ask more questions after I had my dog's, gut health tested, because it's just, so much great information. It absolutely blows your mind.
I know. And just think of it, ladies, we are at the the precipice. We're just scratching the surface of what is known about how they're driving health and disease. Like, we have no freaking clue, really. I mean, we do from like what we, luckily in microbiome in the mouth, that's dental microbiology has been like over a century old. So like what I've been working on, I luckily have a lot of years to like pull from, but where Holly's working gut is maybe only 20 years old, 30 years old. So it's still a newbie, and she's been doing an amazing job translating what is known in human and asking if it's the same or different in dog and cat. So she's really, truly pioneering.
So do you have like a list of, like common diseases that are connected to poor dental health?
Mm-hmm. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Cardiovascular. So like heart valve and pericarditis, heart failure, kidney disease, liver disease, fatty liver disease, diabetes, dementia in beagles, cancers, hot spots, refractory hot spots, joint diseases like osteoarthritis, and pulmonary problems.
Wow.
That's amazing. I mean, it's unbelievable. And it's unbelievable that unless you're somebody who's seeking this out, like I don't think your general vet on the corner or down the street is talking about these things.
I don't think they have time, honestly, but they know and they understand the importance of dental. That's why they push it on us so often, is because they know that dogs don't do as well and live as long if they don't have dental hygiene. They just have the time to tell us why. And honestly, we're educating them on why. Well, like the microbes literally escape the mouth, go through the gum tissue into the circulation, head into the heart, or go into the brain, and then into the circulation. Like, we're teaching them what we've learned, but we're focused on that. Vets are just literally triaging whoever comes in that day, and trying to do the best that they can. But we're doing the hard research to figure out what the true mechanisms are and how dental disease spreads into all these other diseases. But what I can tell you is the microbes don't stay in the mouth. So the goal is to grow the good, because they're going to go everywhere. So you just want good in the mouth so that good go other places. And then we know that if good is in the mouth, there's lower inflammation, period, in that animal. It doesn't matter where, right? So that's what we know top level. And we're just we've realized that putting the microbiome, not your dog or your cat, on that keto diet is more ancestral.
Oh. And
that winds up being better.
So how long did it take you to kind of figure out, like, this is the formula? Like, was it like years of testing to try to find the right things? Did you have an idea of like, oh, this is what we know, so it's probably this? Or
so 13 years in, started the dog project 6 years ago. So that's when we realized, wow, the human microbiome and the dog oral microbiome are very similar. Strains are different. Dominance of the certain strains are different, but they all eat the same. So that's when we really went after it. We didn't care who was in the mouth at the time because we didn't know enough about who was in the mouth, but we knew what they ate because we looked at the ingredient list and all the foods available, and we're like, corn, rice, oats, potato, like chickpea, all these flours and carbohydrates. And I'm like, that's not what dogs should be eating, So, and sure enough, tons of Candida, Aspergillus, E. coli, Shigella, microbes and gum disease pathogens, they all love carbohydrates or depend on carbohydrates to survive, right? And you just don't want Candida in the mouth. You don't want MRSA in the mouth. We find so many dogs with multi-drug resistant MRSA or strep, these really extended spectrum beta-lactamase resistant E. coli. You don't want those in your dog's mouth. They're going to lick you and you're going to wind up with them too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a case we treated successfully in LA where the dog had MRSA in his mouth. So we treated Teef And then the mom didn't get skin and soft tissue infections anymore.
Wow.
Because she was immunocompromised.
Wow.
And their family pet, their golden, was harboring the MRSA.
Wow.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. I'm excited to get my package. I want it right now.
Yeah. And so what I want to highlight is dental disease, yes, is a big problem, but oral microbiome and the oral biofilms that inhabit the mouth are way bigger than just dental disease.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's something that we don't know, because as you said at the top, you can have great teeth, but still have all that stuff going on in there. And you're looking at your dog's mouth and you're like, oh, wow, their teeth look great.
Yeah.
Not realizing that,
yeah, you see this canine and the gum tissue's bulging and you don't think that that's a thing, but it's a thing,
Yeah.
So you can use the Teef powder for cats also, or is there a different cat version?
We are going to come out with a specialty version for cats specifically that suffer from gingiva stomatitis, which is a different kind of a disease. So in gum disease, traditionally in humans, dogs, and cats, the microbes below the gum line really upset the immune system, and the immune system and the microbes together degrade the tissue, which is why you get eroding gums and your teeth wind up falling out. Or you need to get pulled because they're not stable. Because that ligament, that periodontal ligament, it's called, that held that tooth in its joint in your jaw, it gets degraded. So there's nothing holding it there. So that bone just leaves. That tooth gets extracted. In cats with gingiva stomatitis, we are seeing a lot of fungal growth, causing overgrowth of the tissue. So it's almost like tumor-like growth, cauliflower-like growth of the gingiva. It's a form of hyperplasia. Dogs can get it too, normally from a viral infection. And it's just as catastrophic, super painful. But there's an extra additive from cell wall material from algae we're using to just soak up the fungal toxin to reduce that load so that the tissue can calm back down again. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be, so Teef, the current formula of Teef is good for cats and dogs. And then cats with extra problems, we're coming out with the answer in April.
Oh, wow. And is there a horse version coming, or was it?
Yes. There is a horse version coming. We are about 80% through. We're just in validation stages.
Wow.
Because horses get a ton of gingival infections in the form of root infections, or they'll get abscesses a lot. And that affects, it can lead to downstream joint issues, performance issues, gut health issues. So if they're just in pain and they don't tell you, right? So we're just trying to solve for that. So everybody's, long story short, a lot of folks are focused on teeth, but the soft tissue in the mouth there's more of it, and it's what's at stake. And so we're trying to figure out ways that are safe, that can be used daily to protect that soft tissue.
And there is a human version too.
Yeah, it just came down from the International Space Station.
I was going to ask about that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, we did a year-long stability study up in space with novel packaging that could diffract radiation. And our product showed that it's tolerant to, sub-zero temperatures and all sorts of crazy exposures, zero gravity. And so hopefully, good things will happen in the aerospace industry with, because, there's no dentists and hygienists up in space.
Well, I was just thinking, how would you even brush your teeth? Like, can you even do that? Like,
yeah. So our approach is, I built it for grandma, so she couldn't brush her teeth because she had rheumatoid arthritis. So it was like a lozenge that she could just put in her mouth and it melted, and it talked to the bacteria and told her bacteria to stop making acid so she didn't get cavities and stop pissing off her immune systems, or gum disease didn't get worse. and grow it, like asking the microbes to grow the right kind of microbes. So we just took that same technology, put it in the dog product, but we had to advance it a bit because dogs often don't get their teeth brushed. They often don't get as many dental cleanings and things like that. And so we supercharged the dog product, but it's all about making it minimally invasive. You can take every day. It's not toxic, not killing anybody. And it doesn't require water or, you don't need to like brush anything. It's just something that talks to your microbes and tells them how to behave.
I just had like a major light bulb go off in my head because my grandmother is 98 years old and she's having a little bit of dementia stuff going on, but her mobility has really decreased since she had a fall last year. And kind of ever since then, that's when her cognitive functions have like really declined. But I don't think she's really brushing her teeth at all.
No, and that's the thing is I didn't know my grandmother was suffering. I was playing online Scrabble with her every day, and she would kick. I was at Stanford as a postdoc, and my whole lab we'd team up to try and beat her on Scrabble, and she kicked our butts.
That's amazing.
And then she had a stroke, right? But she didn't tell me or my mom or her brothers, my uncles, that, she was struggling brushing her teeth. That's, a loss of dignity. And in assisted living, they don't do a dental check. So you're kind of on your own. And I didn't know all of the regulations and stuff until afterwards. But yeah, she was suffering in silence. And she had pain, and that's what told her to go to the dentist, and she had that tooth extracted, and that's what caused the whole thing. But I mean, she's just one of many. Like on average, 76% of Americans over the age of 65 have dental disease. In dogs, it's 80% by the age of 2 now. It used to be 3, but now it's the age of 2. And 92% of cats have it by age 7. So we have a problem.
Yeah. Those are amazing. Like, I mean, I'm like unbelievably terrible statistics.
It's like after this, it's like lost my teeth.
I know. And here's the really sad thing is that when you brush and floss, you're just moving bacteria around. They reattach in 2 minutes. That's scientifically proven. So what we're doing, which is why we're doing it, is changing what they do, because that's the only shot on goal we have. Because it's not like you want to carpet bomb your mouth all the time and you're going to cause cancer, right? So we're using nutrient pressure to empower the good, and hopefully they will overpower the bad.
Oh my gosh, this has just been mind-blowing information today.
I hate to be, I'm always a party foul. It's either like, I'm either talking about spontaneous abortion, dental disease, or urinary tract infections, or sexually transmitted diseases in dental. I'm just like a Debbie Downer.
You're the person at the barbecue that when we're about to bite into the hot dog and you're like, do you know what's in that?
Totally. Yep. I'm never going to get invited to another barbecue.
Well, no, this is so incredibly important. And, just we all need to know this. And this microbiome, research, I mean, has just blown my mind open. And I sometimes get annoyed at the teachers in my like middle school and stuff. Like science was so boring to me that I, went in like a totally different direction. And now like later in life, it's like, I'm trying to learn all of this and, and I'm like completely fascinated by it. And I'm like, why did they make it so boring in school? I could have been good at this.
It's because you had boring people teaching you.
That's true.
I mean, the freaking coolest stuff that's just came out of the Forsyth Institute. No, UPenn a couple of months ago was they showed that Candida, which inhabits a lot of people's and dogs and cats' mouths, and strep, which is a bacteria, so a fungus and a bacteria. It's like fungus and bacteria walk into a bar, blah blah blah. No, they literally work together to walk across your teeth. Yeah, so they move together and they collaborate in a multi-kingdom way that transplants because you have a different microbiome on your bicuspid than you do on your front tooth than you do on your second molar, right? They're that different of a ecological niche, and so they're showing how unique it is and how dynamic it is, and that's like super cool. But we only realize that because people decided to watch microbes and move. Yeah, but we only know what we see, right?
Right.
So if you have a hammer, you have a nail, you only see, if you have a hammer, you only see nails. And if you have a screwdriver, you only see screws. And so we just need more people with more tools, right, to get together. And so we can do more interdisciplinary kinds of work to really understand the science and see how really cool it is.
That's one of my criticisms, I guess, of like the medical industry is like how like compartmentalized everything is.
Totally.
And, I learned this, even with my own health too. Like it was why I started working with like a functional medicine doctor for myself, because I'm like, nobody's looking at like how all of these things are like all interacting together. And, like, yeah, you're just going to the, gastro doctor and he's, telling you this, but for instance, like I had like a weird stomach issue at one point, and it turned out I was sensitive to sucralose, and I had been trying to stop drinking sodas, and I was drinking these flavored waters that had sucralose in it, and it caused me like massive stomach issues. And I had to go to get this whole workup and all these things done, and nobody ever said to me, "What are you eating? What are you drinking? Are you drinking sucralose?" I like found it through research, on my own. And I'm just always like, what is going on? Why is the right hand is never talking to the left hand, in the body? There's like literally a right hand doctor and a left hand doctor. And it's like, nobody's talking to each other,
Yeah. Yep. I can't even like, yeah. Yep, that's rheumatology, neurology, everybody's super focused in their own areas of discipline. But the thing is we're, all of us, dogs, cats, humans, horses, we're just walking system of systems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you have to understand that. And the microbes are their own system of systems, if that makes sense. Because there are many more microbes in you and on you than you are human. And so that's been highly ignored for millennia in research. And only now are people like picking up pipettes and sequencing and figuring out who really is there, and what are they doing? And it's gosh darn time, And when you really think here's a total Debbie Downer for tonight. But we are walking petri dishes. Microbes just swim through us or penetrate our tissues when we're sleeping or poop in our mouths and we swallow it, all night long, which is true.
Yeah.
And they go to our brains. They're playing out, they're doing backflips in our kidneys, like, why aren't they causing more problems when you think about that? Like that.
And the goal is the barbecue.
I know.
Oh, you can come to mine. I want to talk about this all night.
I know. It's like it's going to be the barbecue where people just aren't eating. We're just looking at everything.
I don't eat hot dogs anyway.
What my favorite commercials, and I've never seen them anymore. And you probably don't see them because of the pandemic. And probably freaked too many people out. But there was a time when I don't even know what the commercial was, but it was about basically bacteria is everywhere. And someone was walking into a grocery store and then they touch something. And then when they pull their hand away, there's the cartoon green little bubbles and they're multiplying. And as this person's walking through the grocery store, they're just multiplying everywhere. And so every time I go to the grocery store and I'm looking at people who are just touching the different things and I'm like, we're so disgusting. How did we not have a pandemic earlier? Because everything in here is covered in bacteria.
I mean, like the quintessential story is Typhoid Mary cooking for all those rich families in the 1800s, right? And they all got typhoid.
Yeah, because we were always calling my dad that during the pandemic, like because he was like not being as careful as the rest of us thought he should be. And I'm like, don't be the Typhoid Mary, Dad.
But I mean, it just shows you how you can amplify it,
So it sounds like you have some exciting things coming out now, getting ready to come out this year. Is there anything else that you want to give us like a sneak preview of that's coming down the pike?
Coming down the pike. So cat for high need, then dog treats and eluding chew toys.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh, I'm here for it.
I know, me too. I mean, that's the hardest thing is finding appropriate chew toys. Because I mean, I have chews. And as you said earlier, raw bones are fine and good, but there's a lot of people who are afraid to give their dogs raw bones, or their dogs just aren't good with raw bones. Yeah. And then, of course, there's that sugary marrow that they're enjoying.
Oh, I mean, a little bit goes a long way. So a little bit of bone I recommend, but it's also mindful of how that animal was sacrificed, because that stress goes to the marrow first before the muscle. Because there are very many neurons in the marrow, which never really gets appreciated.
Yeah. But yeah, I've found one chew toy that I feel comfortable giving to my dogs, and only one of my dogs will play with it.
That's the problem. It's hit or miss, I find.
I mean, there's the plastic ones, but having your dog swallow little things of plastic is not ideal.
No.
And, but I found these there. I didn't find them. I was introduced to them one year when I went to Super Zoo, and it's a company called Cocoa Chews, and they're coconut. They're made from the coconut husk, and so they have balls, and then they have like braided rope.
Ooh, that's cool.
And I was so excited to bring those home, because I was convinced that my dogs would be like, yes. But, one of my dogs is a very heavy, destructive chewer. So once he realized he couldn't tear it to pieces, he was just like no longer interested in it. But now we have a puppy in the house. So she's always walking around with one of the balls in her mouth. Aww. So I'm just like, yay, I hope she keeps it up. But with other dogs, they're just, unless it's food, they're really not interested in a chew toy that I found. And it's just like, or it's plastic, where it's just sort of like, why?
I know. My dog likes to make a lot of noise, as much noise as he possibly can, because he likes attention. And so he goes after squeakers or squeaker toys. But they don't make those indestructible for a reason, because they want you to repurchase, I think, every it's like unaffordable after a certain point for each month. We have a budget, like one squeaker toy a month is what I can afford.
Yeah, Nino has these red rubber balls that he likes, and he'll just like chew on them. And so, every couple months we'll order like a big box of them, and I'll be like, Mama's working to keep you in balls.
That's like the coup de grace. Some company can come up with the epic toy that most dogs want to chew on. Like, I think they're gonna.
And if it's not destroyed, even if it only lasts a few months, just let it last.
Would be great.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, can it last longer than 30 minutes? Please.
I know. I feel so badly, because like my mom and dad got Kashi 2 squeaky toys for his Christmas present, and he toasted them in 45 minutes. And my dad was like, he's like blaming me for Cash going through them so fast. And I'm like,
it's like, to me, that's your dog was showing restraint. Right? Because it's like, one of my dogs, my oldest dog, Rodrigo, he doesn't even touch the toys anymore, because he knows that I'll come and take it from him, because he is the master. It's like all over the years, he has tried to show me that he can destroy a toy in seconds. And it's like, yes, I believe you. Please put it down. It's like, I can't afford this anymore. And I'm afraid, the companies that come out with, this is a tough toy, and, we dare, and it's like in fine print, if you have a dog that's used to tearing toys apart, please don't buy our toy. Prove us wrong. But
right.
There's one brand called, is it Rough and Tough? I always get it wrong, but I think it's Rough and Tough. Their toys are on the spendy side, but those are the only ones that last in my house. Eventually they will die, but they'll last for years before, like, I have a shark, and the shark fin will be torn off, and it's just like, But those are like the best ones. And so we have tons of them in this house. And now, thanks to this conversation, I'm going to gather them all up and throw them in the washing machine.
Yeah,
they're covered in bacteria.
Totally. Yeah, you don't think about it, but yeah, you should just, I can send you some Petri dishes. You can just smear and then grow.
No. Because that would be, then my partner would have to give you a call because he was like, ever since she got a package from you,
I know, right?
Everything's in plastic now.
I know. Your furniture is covered.
Exactly.
The remote control is covered in a baggie.
Putting colloidal silver on everything.
Oh my goodness. We could talk to you all night. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, ladies. Absolutely. It was great.
And I'll make sure we have links for everybody in the show notes, and they'll have a discount code and everything so that they can get their own order of Teef.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.